I'm going to preface this story by giving you a few random facts about my life. Number one, I birthed 2 giant 9-pound children at home. Number 2, they were born on 3 days, either side of Christmas. God damn it, Earth Day. And my in-laws, ex, are named Dick and Jane. So, here goes the story. So, I live in New York City. I had both my children at home back when doing such a thing was crazy lady shit. Still is, but, you know, I live 2 miles away from York Hospital, so it was fine. When it came time to have our second child, I was absurdly pregnant. I'm a petite Amazon, and I had the giantest, strongest baby in the world. He left bruises from the inside, and I never saw like a foot push through, but it was pretty close. And close to the end of my pregnancy, about 8 months in, I was feeling very weird inside. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't feel like just one baby. Maybe it's 2. How's it doing that? And so the midwife was over at the house, and she's like, well, maybe you should go have an ultrasound, because I was that lady who didn't have an ultrasound at 7 months pregnant. And no one would take me for the ultrasound because I hadn't been anywhere. So I ended up over at the Amish clinic in Lancaster, in Strasbourg, on Sundays. They have the gynecologist come up from Baltimore, check everything out. Turns out it was one very strong, very big baby. I had 3 different due dates, and he was born on one of them. Long story short, it is 2 days before Christmas, and my in-laws, Dick and Jane, Dick, who lives up to his name, and couldn't look at me for 3 years while I breastfed his only grandson, heard I had a cold, and it was 2 days before Christmas. And so they decided not to come up from Delaware. And they canceled Christmas on a 9-month pregnant woman, and it was the worst. So, cried and cried and cried, sneezed and sneezed and sneezed. 2 days later, they came up. We had Christmas together. It was all right. And then the next morning, we were going to have root beer floats at the nursing home with great-grandpa. But I knew I was in labor. But I pulled it together, and I had root beer floats, and I made funny jokes, and then I went to my friend's house, and we had family Christmas with her, and I laid on the couch, and I labored, and I labored, and I waited until I knew that the distance to Delaware was greater than the distance home. So finally I was like, oh, well, I'm having this baby, we should call the midwives, get it all together. My mother-in-law is not here, thank God, all of them. So I had the baby, and my youngest son, who was 3 at the time, thought I was sick and dying, which if you've ever been in labor, you are sick and dying. But, you know, being 3, he didn't want to leave the house, and it was fine. I was like, oh, I'm okay, I'm just pushing the baby out. We have the baby, doesn't have a name for 3 or 4 days. We thought he was a girl, Francis, aka Liam. And eventually, my in-laws, Dick and Jane, come back up from Delaware, and the first words out of Finn's mouth were, "The baby came out of Mama's butt." I was like, no, no, honey, no, not my butt, my vagina. And he looks at Jane, and he looks at Dick, and he goes, "The baby came out of Mama's vagina." And till this day, that will probably be one of the greatest moments that I've ever had in my life. And I was so glad that I waited until the distance to here was greater than it was till Delaware. Thank you.